It seems like ages since we've been out here, and probably it is, to be honest. I don't think we've actually moved the boat since October. It's early Feb, and we've just been to the fuel dock. So we've stocked up on a little bit of diesel because we were really low. We're going to need the heater a little bit, but it is quite warm actually. It's about 10, 12 degrees. It's a little bit grey. Just turn around. But it's very nice. There's not a lot of wind. There's a few of us out here today. Chris is just doing a cup of tea. Catherine's sat up at the front. We're just going to make our way down towards Newton's Creek. I'll probably stay there for the night and then we'll come back tomorrow. So yeah, a couple of things just to update you on. So we have got our AIS all nicely working on here. That seems to be doing really, really good. We've done an oil change on the engine, so we're just making sure that that's all okay and that there's nothing amiss there. And we are going to be doing a bit of motoring today, but we changed the oil in the engine, the filter, the sail drive oil. We're going to get the boat lifted in a couple of weeks, so we've not put all our sails on, but we had our main sail repaired, because you remember the batten, it's not actually on at the moment, but if you remember the batten ripped, and we've actually got our secondary, our smaller jib on the front at the moment. We also had that repaired. That needed, let me just turn a little bit here. That needed a little bit of work because the sacrificial strip on the side, the UV strip, was really battered. So we haven't actually had that sail on this boat for probably 18 months. We took it off when we first bought it and put the cruising chute, the bigger sort of Genoa, on the front. And we've been using that ever since. But actually this smaller sail is quite good in the winter. We're not really going very far, as I say, we're just taking our time. We just thought we'd just come out and actually just check a few systems, because we've done quite a lot of work over the winter, so it's good to have a little bit of a shakedown test. So that's basically what we're doing. So we'll show you a few of the things that we've done, and we'll show you some footage a bit later on. Hopefully you can see that and you can hear me over the sound of the engine running. But the way that now this is not jumping around left and right. I haven't been able to do that for such a long time. That's one of the main issues that I've had with my Open CPN. And I don't think it's a Signal K kind of issue. I actually think it's an issue in Open CPN. So what I'm actually doing is I'm sending the data to this using NMEA. So I'm filtering the connection, and I'll show that in a little minute, but I'm filtering the connection and I'm only sending what I want across. I'm also using a small GPS now. So this is actually running on its own GPS, which also seems to have helped, but I don't get this kind of shift. So the course was that way, and then the course was this way, and then the course was that way, and the boat was always like zigzagging. I don't get that anymore. Well, that's one of the things that's improved dramatically. The other thing that I used to have is that this used to lock up, and the way I've got around that is that I'm doing filtering. So I'll show how we do that. There used to be something called SK Filter, but that's gone now in version 3, and instead you use data prioritization. So I'll show how that I've set that up. So what will happen is if this small GPS fails for whatever reason, if this fails and it stops working, after so many seconds it'll start using the boat's GPS and it'll work that way. So it's good for failover, and it also means that I can have 2 GPSs set up and I don't have to come in here and manually change settings and things like that. So I will show how that's set up shortly, but that's now working really, really well, which it wasn't before. I did use it for planning and looking at our track, but I couldn't get it there. Did you see there was a little flick then? Every so often I get one, but it's so much better than it was. It is pointing in a direction. I'm also getting this track that I didn't get before either. So it's working a lot better. The route is actually is pretty good. So really pleased with that. That's actually usable now.
And after all that motoring, here are a few sights and sounds of Newtown Creek.
So we've spent a nice night here, and the wind's picked up a little bit. It picked up a little bit in the night, you can just see. Hopefully we can sail back today, or sail a little bit of it anyway. When we get to Southampton Water, it's probably going to be on the nose again, or probably a little bit as we've just got past Bewley, to be fair. But we'll try and do a little bit of sailing home today. But we've got up this morning quite early. We've watched the sunrise, which was really nice. Got ourselves a cup of tea. Tide's coming in, so we just need to make our way out shortly. It's quite early, but we need to get ourselves out because the tide's going to turn, and we need to go back with the tide. We don't want to be fighting the tide this morning. So bit of an early start, but we'll get ourselves going in a second. Just a couple of boats in. I think those are regulars down there. I don't think they came in. Well, they definitely didn't come in last night. A couple of boats over here. That's one of our neighbours. They're 2 doors away from us, or 2 berths away from us. I don't know who the other boat is, but there was just a couple of others in. And then quite a few tankers out last night. There's a tanker in the distance there. There's a tanker just to the side of it. One was here last night, well, one was here yesterday, we passed it, and the second one came last night, and then a dredger popped up. So he was going up and down. I don't know whether he was doing any dredging, but he was doing some circling and then carrying on and then doing a bit more circling. Whether he was dropping stuff off or not, I don't know. But I don't think he'd drop it off out there, so not quite sure what his plan was. But yeah, lovely night. We sat watching the birds select. It's a little bit chilly this morning, but it's going to warm up, so we're preparing. But yeah, sunrise was absolutely beautiful. We're going to test our small jib today. So that was we had that repaired. That was the one that the sacrificial strip basically came adrift from. Actually, the sail's in really good condition. We took it down to Elvstrom Sails. They're in Port Hamble, the next marina down from us. And they've been really good, offered us loads of advice on what to do with it, how to repair it, whether it was worth repairing, because to be honest, when we got it out of the bag it looked like it was in bits, but actually it was just the edge. So they did a really good job. Offered some advice on what to put on it, you know, whether we were sailing in the Med, that'd have been nice. And they would have said, you know, upgrade that, but they said, well, where are you sailing at the moment? If you're going to be sailing here for the next couple of years, just repair it with this standard of, I guess it's a plastic material or something. If you're going down to the Med, you know, you need to upgrade because of the sun and everything else. So we're not yet, so that was good advice. But yeah, they've done a really nice job. They've also repaired the main as well. We haven't put the main on because the boat being lifted, so we've just left that as it is for now. As you can see, obviously everything's just as it was. There's no main on. So we're not going to put that on, not for one weekend. I was worried, to be honest, that it was going to get wet, and then when you get it off, where did you then put it in the boat? So we just left it. We're going to have the boat lifted in just over 2 weeks, just to sort out the anodes really, because everything else is fine. Going to get it blasted off, anodes cleaned, anodes changed, and then straight back in. It's going to come out probably the end of this year for a little bit of work. There's a couple of things I'd like to start looking at now, but other than that, it's absolutely fine. So we're going to have a bit of fun getting off this mooring, but it's not too bad because we're into the wind, so we'll just nudge forwards and hopefully Chris can just undo that. Wind's coming from this direction, so we'll just go a little bit forwards and hopefully we can get off that. It's always a little bit tricky, but it shouldn't be too bad. Sometimes it's easier to anchor than pick up mooring balls, to be perfectly honest, but we should be okay. The wind isn't that strong, but it's very cold actually up there. Ooh. I don't know whether you can just see here, but there's a little bit of wind over tide. Hopefully that's capturing it on the camera. Just a little pocket of it. We had a little pocket of it before, but here it is now. So at the moment the tide is obviously going the way we're going, and the wind is coming, it's directly on the nose at the moment. But there was a little pocket up there, and then there must obviously just be another little bit here. It's amazing really how those two forces together can do that. It's fairly windy. It's about 17-18 knots of wind. Hopefully you can see there's a large tanker and the pilot boat's just come out, so we've just come inside this red so that we are outside of the main shipping lane, because what he's got to do is he's got to do a big turn, and just where the ferry is there, that's the turning point that he needs to make round. So depending on which way the tide is going, that could either push him towards us, or it could take him the other way. Obviously today it's taking him away from us, so his turn's not going to be quite so bad, but there's a huge exclusion zone in this section here where you have to maintain set distances from the front and side of large boats like that. So the pilot boat shoots out first, makes sure that nobody's in his way, and then if it isn't, it starts heading back, and there's absolutely nobody behind us, so he's basically done a turn now and he's heading back in. So the big tanker then is going to do his turn, and then he's going to head down and out towards Portsmouth, down that way. So we just tucked right out of the channel so that he can do that turn. The AIS bit is now working really well, and you can see it flashing there saying that we've got a target. There it is, and there's the other boat there, so that's working really well. He's just obviously turned back round and gone the other way. So we will turn a little bit this way now, because we do not want to go over the bank. And there's the ship. We were saying before, this is one of the good things about sailing down the Solent. You come across this kind of traffic a lot. Ferries, fast ferries, tankers, and it does, you don't tend to panic. I mean, obviously you don't want to get in his way, but you don't tend to panic quite so much when you see them, because you kind of get used to them being there and knowing what to do. So, you know, it is a good sailing area, really. There he goes.